Definitely nice to be back. I look at my career started over 30 years ago here, so it's a pretty big window of time, and obviously it's great to be part of celebrating Daniel and Henrik's night on Wednesday. So it's nice to be back, and nice to see some old faces for sure.
Marcus, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about your experience watching the Daniel and Henrik grow up when they were little, and also how you saw them grow back in Sweden during the lockout year when you guys were back there with Modo.
Well, as I've mentioned a few times, I played a little bit with their oldest brother, Stefan. And I remembered we played on an outdoor rink in a small club in Örnsköldsvik. So I remember just seeing their faces. I recognized them from that early age, and never really thought much about it until after moving over to North America, finding out that they were really highly touted and that they were projected to go very high in the draft. So that being said, all of a sudden I got a phone call from Thomas Gerdin saying that they made a blockbuster trade at the deadline, or at the draft, and that they drafted both Daniel and Henrik, and then having them as teammates for 7 or 8 years. It was interesting seeing them grow and coming in as very shy, young, polite Swedish guys, and then turning into leaders eventually. And like you said, the lockout, I think, was a big factor for them taking the next step, because they obviously had the talent all along, but it's about maturing, and it's about finding your role on a team, or taking that role, and for some reason that year away from the NHL really benefited them, and they came back as new players.
And I think that the two guys that going in Wednesday night, I mean these guys for me should be in the Hall of Fame, and I hope they get that because they deserve it. I met them. They were in their second year. It was November of 2001, and they were grinding through a difficult year for them, and were criticized and for being too slow and not good enough and everything else. And they took the challenge, and not only were they tremendous players and guys that were hard. They never changed their game. They were so dedicated, so hardworking. They made themselves into players. I mean, they were chubby boys from Sweden who weren't great skaters, bottom line, and they became men and hard, and and my one regret is that is just rooting in 2011 so hard for them, because they should have been champions, and so close, and it's a cruel sport when it comes to that side of things, but so that's what they did on the ice. And then you look at how they approached. Anyone who I've heard so many people who've met these guys and are just blown away at how down to earth they are. They put their pants on one leg at a time, and they treat everyone as equal, and that's and they just care about where they played and where they lived, and so that's why that's I think the reason, and obviously it's so well deserved for them for sure.
Come back and you see 19 in the rafters. So how special is that for you?
Well, I think both Trevor and Stan summed it up nicely. For me, the hockey part of my life feels distant now, even though it's only been 10 or 11 years. But coming back here and being reminded of being part of this organization, and not only that, but being connected with Stan, Trevor, Henrik and Daniel and Pavel, it means a lot, because they're not only quality players but people, and like Trevor said, I think Daniel and Henrik, they never put themselves in a situation where they they wanted people to praise them, but that's why it's so nice to be here and honoring them quietly, just showing, and not only us, but there'll be other players here too, and just showing what they meant to us and to the team and to the city. But it's a great story. Two young, humble, committed guys that had an outstanding career.
Trevor, you alluded to the 30-year relationship you built with this city and this province. Has it been difficult for you over the past 18 months as that's been on hold, essentially?
You know, I look at it I had such an incredible run. You know, I came here in '88, kind of left in '08. There was a 4-year kind of intermission there. But, you know, for all intents and purposes, kind of started here, finished here, and you know, through the ups and downs, it was an awesome, you know, something I'll forever cherish. So, so that's special. It always will be. You know, the time in the president role was obviously challenging. Certainly came into a really tough spot, and you know, worked hard and did the best that I could. But you know, since I've left, you know, life's been great. I mean, I got a 2-year-old and a great wife, and we've done lots of things together as a family, and I've certainly keep in touch with a lot of people within the organization, and Travis and his staff, and I root for this group. I mean, because they're fun to watch, and I think Travis has done an outstanding. His staff has done a great job. I don't think they're getting the credit they deserve, because this team is young, and they're at the top of the division right now. So it hasn't been difficult at all. I mean, my life is great. I've loved the path it's taken, and I can sit down in front of the TV on a Saturday night and root for the Vancouver Canucks, and that's a good thing.
The one thing I have to say is that Trevor's put a stamp on his team also, not just as a player, but on the business side of it as an organization. Some of the success that we're having now has to go with Trevor's leadership from up above. And it's very difficult. It's a business that we're in. But Trevor was 100% on board, wanted to know everything, learned it quickly, and made changes. And the changes were the right changes, and we're going in the right direction. And Trevor has a stamp on that.
Trevor, you talked about the way the Twins treated people. Do you think that's what, like, probably some of us are surprised that they've been able to just retire and stay here and be crossing guards at their kids' school and soccer games. Do you think the way the community allows them to just integrate is part of respect for the way they treated everyone else while they were here? You've been through this.
Yeah. I think that, well, first of all, it has to do with where they grew up and how they were raised and everything else. But I think that I always said that they've never, you know, there's certain guys who always have or that can have a problem with, you know, their private life not being private. But if you don't mind, it don't matter. And these guys just, people come up to them, they say hi, hello, sign an autograph, take a picture, and move on. And they've just integrated into the community. Their kids are in school, they're doing activities. And I think when people say they're just regular guys, you know, that have maybe a unique job. But it's amazing because anybody who comes in contact with these guys know that they're just down-to-earth, humble, hardworking, family guys, and they can relate to that. And I think that's what people, and certainly as teammates of theirs, saw very early, and there's a lot to like there. And so it's just the way they are, you know. I mean, they're just simple, honest, easy to like kind of guys.